So a lot of people have been asking me how, do I create the FL Studio workflow inside of Logic Pro? And you don't realize until you switch DAWs how important workflow is, because workflow determines your ability to create at will. So when I found out how to use Logic Pro in my same FL Studio workflow, it opened up so many new avenues on how to create. So the first thing I like to do is load up a template, usually with my microphone, just because I do tutorials. And if you guys have instruments, here's my keyboard loaded up. So that's the first thing I usually take care of. After this, what we're going to do is, for example, start picking our sounds. Now, it just depends if I want to go sounds first or drums first. But in this case, let's just go drums first. We're going to go to the browser. I recommend you guys mark stuff as folders. So as you see, it says all files. You can go to your home tab, go to your hard drive, find your favorite folder, and then let me go back a step, and you can right click here and bookmark this. So I recommend you guys bookmark it because it just saves so much time. So I have certain folders bookmarked, so I don't have to keep going to the same folders over and over and over again. Saves a ton of time. So now my go-to drums, let's just go to that folder. And let's say we want to start with the hi-hat. What I like to do is just simply drag the hi-hat into this like gray area below the other tracks and send it to a Drum Machine Designer. This is going to load up like an FPC type plugin. Okay, so what we're going to do is just load up sounds per tab. So let's load up a snare, a hi-hat, and just a simple 808. Now we have everything we need. Okay, so most people would try to manipulate this. What I recommend you guys do is click where it says the inspector over here. And you have to realize that this is a stack. So most people will probably click on where it says DMD for Drum Machine Designer and try to manipulate the samples from here. But what I recommend you guys do is click this little arrow to open up the stack. And then if you click on each instrument, you can go to the sampler itself. And I'd recommend you edit your samples this way. There's no right or wrong way. I'm just telling you guys, this gives you a little more control, because I used to try to edit it from the other view and it wasn't working for my workflow. So now if I go inside of the DMD here, it says C1. So I got to find that on my keyboard. There's the hi-hat, snare, 808. So now what I'm going to do is set the BPM. Let's go up to 140. So I think by default it's at 120. We're going to turn the metronome on, and all we're going to do is just play the hi-hat. Actually, I'm going to play the 808, not the hi-hat. So the reason I'm starting with the 808 is because with the hi-hats, I'll show you guys a simpler way, but I like to record by hand, the 808. So let's record to the metronome. Let's just hit record, and whatever you're clicked on. You know what? I'm recording on that track. That's why it has a pitch to it. So let's go back to the actual group. Let's call this like drums. Let's run this back. So as you guys can see, if you want to go tonal, you have to click at the sample level. Okay, but if you want to go just play an 808, the one note, you can go to this group level. Okay, so that's going to give you the difference between FL and Logic in this case. So to play this a little bit simpler, I might have to change the octave. So what I'm going to do here is go to the sampler and just pull this coarse pitch down so that I can play on my keyboard without going way down on my keyboard. So now I can play different notes. So let's say record. Also too, this keeps the velocity. Okay, so now we have the 808. We could just double click in here to pull up the MIDI window. Let's just hit Control A. My first thing I usually do is set a quantize amount. So by default, I think mine's set to 1/16 under the quantize window. And I have, let me get rid of this inspector so you guys can see. I don't know how to make this. Here we go. So it's under 1/16. That's my usual quantize. Hit Control A. And I'll pull the strength up depending on what I'm building. Sometimes you don't want the strength at 100 because it'll take the life out of your MIDI. So if I'm not producing trap, I'm usually at 50% quantize at the max. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys how to do hi-hats without recording. So we're going to go to the drum layer here. Click the edit tool with this little pencil and go to where it says step sequencer. I'm going to show you guys a shortcut. Now these are named the same thing, but the top thing is a hi-hat. I need to rename this. Let's see if we can rename this from here. Let's call this hi-hat, so we know what's what, and then rename this snare. All right, so let's go all the way back to the beginning of the track and go to the step sequencer. And now what we're going to do is hit a shortcut Option Command on the Mac and then left click. And what this does is it merges two cells together, and then it makes the notes bigger. And now we can hit Command R or Control R. I guess it's always Command. There's no PC version of Logic. Let's set this to 32 steps, and now we have a steady hi-hat. Now, if we want hi-hat rolls, we can click the drop down here. This is what I love about Logic Sequencer is you can get really fine-tuned. So let's say I want to go ta 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 like that. Let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, ta ta. So what we can do here is under note repeat, where it says repeat, we can click here and make it 2 notes, 4 notes, 3 notes, whatever. And we can create a little simple bounce. All right, now let's add our snare. The snare is going to go on the 3 count and the 7 count. So it's 1, 2, snare, 4, 5, 6, snare. Now, if we want to loop this, just grab the left here, top right, I should say, and then drag it all the way out. So it just repeats itself. Sometimes the drums, you don't want to just loop everything over and over. So I wouldn't get in the habit of doing that. But if you guys know your hi-hats aren't going to change, then you could just drag and drop or drag it. So I know in this case, we're not going to change the hi-hat like that. Now I can go to the individual sound, grab the inspector tool, and just edit the sound. So let's say I want to crank the snare up and maybe distort it some more. Let's add some drive here under the filter. Make sure the filter is actually turned on. So drive just adds more harmonics to the sound. We could also change the tuning. And then we could turn it up. Okay, so let's say I want a little bounce in my hi-hat. It's a little too quantized. Let's go to this drum channel here, click the drop down, and we're gonna go switch one of these. Instead of octave, let's switch this to offset. And what we could do is just click the up arrow and it changes the values across all of the hi-hat. And what this means is it will delay the hi-hat a little to the right. I'll exaggerate so you guys can hear, but normally you can just left click and drag for faster. So you guys can hear that delay in the hi-hat. I'll exaggerate it. Okay, so let's pull this to about like 5 or 10% at the max. It just adds a little more room for the song to breathe a little bit. Now from here, I just pick instrument. So let's right click, add a new software instrument. And let's find some sound. So let's click this little arrow. I love the inspector tab. It just makes everything super easy. Let's click the inspector tab. Let's go to my plugin Hercules. You guys can go to any sound you guys want. So I'm just gonna pull up my own plugin here. Let's go to core library. Let's go to some kind of bell. Fine. Here's a cool bell, fits in this vibe. So this I like to record by hand. For melodies and chords, I don't like drawing them in. That's the only difference between FL. Even in FL, I don't really draw stuff in like I used to anymore. So recording this by hand is my favorite thing to do. Let's record this in. Okay, so now we have the notes. We can click Control A to highlight the notes, grab this quantize strength, or hit Q to quantize, and it will snap to the grid. So let me show you guys some of my favorite shortcuts here. I'll hit, I believe it, I always mix this up. It's Shift Option and then hit up. That will pull the notes up an octave, or if you click down, it goes the other way. So let's pull them up an octave or two. And let's add one of my favorite plugins here under the inspector tab. Again, it makes mixing so fast. You're mixing as you're making the beat. So let's click over here where it says audio effects. Let's go to where it says multi effects. Go to beat breaker. This is a really, really dope plugin. analogous to like a gross beat in a way, but I just love the sound of it. So let's go to half speed and then pull the mix level. I'm just going to show you guys a couple plugins I like to sound design with. So let's go to tape delay. This is one of my favorites. Now here you have to know what you're doing, but basically we're going to open this up, reset all the parameters here. We're going to turn the delay time to 0. You have to take off tempo sync to do that. Turn the feedback down, and we're going to turn the wet level all the way up, turn the dry level down for now. And once everything is reset, everything becomes an effect. So we're going to add these flutter intensity. And it creates like a pitch wobble and a volume wobble. Now also too, by default, it sends sounds to reverbs. So right here we have bus 6 sent to this chain, which is, let me turn it up a little bit. It's a reverb. So if I send a duplicate of the sound to this group, it will have reverb on it, basically. So bus number 5 is a different type of reverb. I think this one's like a smaller reverb. So let's do something weird. Let's add a beat breaker to the reverb channel. Let's put it on halftime. So now my reverb is going through halftime. Now they also have a lot of guitar pedal effects, which are dope. So again, from this point, there's so many ways we could shape the sound, but I'm just gonna turn it down for now. Let's right click, let's go to software instrument. Let's find a sound where we could add chords. Let's go to one of my favorites here under synthesizers called the Retro Synth. And we're gonna play chords. Okay, so now we have that Travis Scott sound. Let's record this in. Now we're going to turn this down because it's really aggressive. Mess one note up. Okay, so now I got to go in and fix that note. Let's hit Control A, quantize these notes here. And we need to find that messed up note. I think it's right here. I kind of visually see it. And then we're just going to hit Option down to pull that note down. That's as much editing I do on the piano roll. I'm not in their piano roll as much as FL Studio's piano roll to edit. But if I were to go in the piano roll, I think I would go to where it says View. Go to Window and then Open Piano Roll. It will make the piano roll bigger, and then we could actually see everything that's going on. So I'm not really in the piano roll as much in Logic Pro because I don't type notes in. But I'm just letting you guys know how to make it bigger so that it's full screen. Now let's go in and switch the sound out. So I'm just going to go through presets here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the chord sound. Also too, what I love is that the drums are already grouped for you, so you don't have to do all this routing. Let's go to the audio effects and let's add some distortion to our drums here. Let's go to distortion 2. I love Logic Pro's effects, so let's turn the mix level down to about 50%. So this is being applied to the entire drum group. So it's gonna add a super gritty sound to the drum. So let's level this stuff. Let's turn the hi-hats down a little bit. Turn the 808 up. Now I'm doing this per the actual track, not the group. And now we're getting a little more thump. Also too, I like to add a channel EQ. Simple channel EQ. Let's turn this to high quality mode. So everything's kind of preset. So let's just boost up the lows. Simple little bump, and then let's turn up the volume here under the gain. And now you can really feel those drums poking out. Oops, I didn't mean to save it. So let's save this project here. All right, so once we have that saved, now it's just a matter of what sounds I want to add. But you guys can hear those drums are super heavy. Let's add another instrument here. Maybe we can get a little more rhythm here. Let's switch the plugin out. Let's do another Hercules here. See what other sounds we can add in here to add a vibe. Let's add that. Let's go back. Again, I like to record this by hand. You could also hit the letter R if it's faster. All right, so I like to just double click in here, quantize everything. One of the notes is too short. I need to go in and make sure the length is right. So it's right here. It's going to drag that manually. Again, I don't really go deep in the piano roll in Logic. Let's quantize this or hit Q. Now I'm just going to add some effect. Let's add a sample delay. It's another one of my favorite effects. This is similar to the Fruity Stereo Enhancer plugin here. So we're creating a delay between the left and the right ear. So I'm sending it to the reverb that has the halftime on it. Now let's say we don't want a direct sound. We can click it where it's a stereo out. I love how fast we can route stuff in Logic. Let's hit no output. So now all we're gonna hear is this bell going through that reverb chain. So it's more of a background sound. We can do the same thing for our first bell. So now it's more of like an atmospheric smeary sound as opposed to a direct bell. So now it's just about balancing the volume here. Let's go back to the synth. Let's see if we can find a different pad. I feel like the brass sound is probably best for this, the way I played it. And now we got that Travis Scott vibe. It just needs vocals at this point. So let me show you guys a couple things I would do to the stereo out. So my favorite thing to do firstly is either add an expander or add a compressor because they have soft clippers built in. So I'm going to do an expander here. So let's type in expander. This is one of my favorite plugins in Logic. It just adds height to your track. So you guys can hear how heavy these drums sound. So now we get the track feeling open. Let's add a compressor. This is optional. Let's go to where it says dynamics, go to where it says compressor. I'm going to turn the threshold all the way up. Now, different compressors give you different sounds. As you guys can see, my voice is way louder on this one than it is on the first preset here. So different compressors give you different sounds and different harmonics. Again, you can even hear it in my voice. Here's the normal compressor. Here's the second compressor. Here's the third compressor, all different harmonic structures. Here's the fourth compressor. Here's the fifth compressor, sixth compressor, 7. So to me, these all kind of sound the same from FET all the way to Opto. At least for the harmonics. And then what we're going to do is set the attack somewhere around 30, 30 milliseconds. So basically, this won't even trigger unless something goes above 0. And we're at 2-to-1 ratio. The release is automatic. But what I like to do, though, is switch the distortion mode. As you guys can hear my voice, we went from normal to soft clipping. And it just gives a certain roundness to the sound. It just, I don't know, just boost up some of the frequencies that make it seem louder. And there's also hard clipping and clip mode, but I like soft clip mode. But if it's too much volume, sometimes I just will either turn the input down or just turn this off completely, because now it's just a very loud beat. Let's turn the compressor on and off. So here's before the compressor. Here's after. So as you guys can hear, this track is super heavy. You know, if the track weren't this heavy, I'd add another channel EQ, maybe boost the lows and boost the entire gain on the right side there. But we don't need to do it for this track. It's already super big sounding. And lastly, I might add a limiter just to make sure that we're not going past 0. So let's do limiter. Now at the limiter stage, you shouldn't be reducing too much, at least for trap. The volume and the peaks should already be controlled by the time you get to the limiter. So what I love about Logic is you can really push the sound, and I'll give you guys these project files for free so that you have this template. But what I love is that you guys can really push the sound without the sound falling apart. Like we really push that beat and it still sounds cohesive. It doesn't sound like that distortion destroyed it. So that's why I love Logic. You can really push it to levels that I don't think you can get inside of FL Studio, at least, especially with stock plugins. But Logic Pro is my favorite DAW, period. And that's my workflow. I haven't mastered the sampling workflow just yet. So you know, maybe I'll focus on sampling next, but that's the one thing I haven't fully mastered outside of just simply time stretching or stem sampling. I haven't mastered the chop type of sample. So I just need practice with that. But subscribe if you're new. If you want to learn how to make beats like the pros, go to busyworksbeats.com. Sign up for free. Peace out, guys.